Welcome once again to our continuing YouTube business video series on business incorporations. My name's Christopher Neufeld of Neufeld Legal, and in this particular YouTube video we're going to be looking at common mistakes that are made when incorporating a company. The first mistake that is often made is incorporating your company while you're still employed by a business with whom you're going to be in competition with. You don't really want to start incorporating before you leave your current employment. You want to at least wait until after you've left your employment and addressed all the legal constraints appropriately with respect to your current engagement. Mistake number 2 is incorporating in another province or jurisdiction with the mistaken belief that you're going to minimize your tax liability. The location of your incorporation is not your key dependent factor for taxation. The key factor is where you conduct the actual business. So you don't necessarily want to incorporate in another jurisdiction, given that there are formalities and requirements necessitated by incorporating in that other jurisdiction that might not necessarily be applicable to where you're carrying on business, such that you might not really want to have 2 offices and carry on business in 2 locations. Mistake number 3 is failing to select an appropriate company name at the outset. Oftentimes people wait till a later date to name their company, but then they have to go back and do both additional filings with additional costs to their jurisdiction, whether it's a state or province, as well as having to go through all the administrative hoops of changing over billing and invoicing relationships that had the previous name, or even if it's just a number, that number to the current business name. Mistake number 4 is not considering variable share classes. All too often people look to have at the outset a single set of shares, be it usually a set of common shares, which are not necessarily the most appropriate for the business, where there are multiple people that are either having shares at the outset or will have shares in a very short time frame. Because of that, you want to consider who is going to be the shareholders and who will soon be shareholders, and seeing if everybody should have the same equity rights and the same voting rights, because that's what shares do. Mistake number 5 is not considering including restrictions right in the Articles of Incorporation. The Articles of Incorporation does provide controls with respect to share distributions, share sales, corporate controls, financing, that you should really consider at this very early stage and have it put into the articles where possible, such that it is clear and immutable. Mistake number 6 is not considering a unanimous shareholders agreement early on. Unanimous shareholders agreement is appropriate where you have more than one shareholder, and especially where there could be some tension down the road or disputes down the road. Certain situations include a 50-50 arrangement, which could result in a perpetual stalemate where the business cannot advance. And there's also a situation where there's one individual who has a larger share position than the other shareholder, such that the minority shareholder, that with the lesser amount of shares, needs to have adequate protections. Yes, corporate statutes of the governing jurisdictions has protections, but these are largely inadequate for purposes of dealing with certain disputes and can be very laborious to go through court proceedings. Mistake number 7 is thinking that everything is done once you've incorporated. You file the papers and you believe everything is completed. That is not necessarily the case. There's a lot of back-end documents that should be prepared Tax registration should be completed. Appropriate business licenses should be obtained. So just simply incorporating doesn't mean you're done. You might be operating in other jurisdictions, and in Canada that means extra provincial licenses. Also, you got to look at the going forward aspect. You need to stay compliant. You need to do your annual filings. These are just some of the mistakes that you need to be aware of as you move forward with respect to your incorporation, so that you don't fall into the trap of having made those mistakes. For more information, please feel free to look down in the summary to the web links that we have, both to ourselves and other sources for incorporation. And please also subscribe to our YouTube channel, as this will provide you with notifications as to future YouTube videos that we look to produce, both on incorporation and on business development and business law. We hope you found this very interesting and informative, and look forward to seeing you in further YouTube videos. Thank you.